Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. As promised, don't worry, the Rift's New West tour series will be finished eventually. But to honor Palladium Books and their particular style of production, just gonna go ahead and jump in and start talking about Rifts Asia. Now, this is just a prelude video. A couple months ago, I finally, after years and years of putting it off, I finally got the two books for Rifts China. And so now it's time to start kind of compiling to see exactly what the East Asian zone of Rifts Earth is like. Now, as I said, this is a bit of a prelude video right off the bat. What the fuck is Asia? According to like linguistics and ancient history, the word Asia likely is derived from a small kingdom that was in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and basically just everything east of that eventually just kind of being swept up under the umbrella of being called Asia, in much the same way that the Roman labeling of one part of Africa as Africa eventually led to all of Africa being called Africa, and so on and so forth. I'm of the personal opinion that Eurasia is a giant continent, and that the retroactive efforts to try to maintain the idea that Europe is somehow its own separate continental entity is, well, just that, retroactive efforts, but really doesn't necessarily reflect on the truth. Basically, everyone from England all the way to Japan are all Asians in a way, under that kind of reasoning. But, that's, like not the common way of looking at things. So, for the terms of this series, we're mostly going to be talking about mainland China, the Japanese islands, and I'm going to be using material from Pantheons in the Megaverse to try to cobble together some semblance of what things are going on in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia, and use a little bit of Rifts Russia to, figure out Eastern Siberia and Mongolia. And we'll discuss as is. China obviously is under the control of the Yama Kings and is fairly isolated from the rest of the world. A major thorn in the side of the long-term development of the Minion War, because since there already is like a massive demonic force that controls a chunk of the planet, that's always going to be an issue for either the devils of Divil or the demons of Hades and their efforts to ever get full and complete total control of the planet. That's always going to stand in their way. Similarly, Japan has an issue with Oni and Japanese demons, but you get the Geofront out of China. We got two rival and very distinctly different and yet common Japanese civilizations. There's a lot to do with the Horun in the region. Probably not going to talk too much about Malaysia and Indonesia. You can kind of qualify them as being part of the Oceania section of the world, but also, frankly, when the rifts would have come, the devastation from tsunamis and volcanic eruptions, like a large chunk of the life on those islands would have been wiped out. So it's reasonable to say that there's not much in the way of Malaysian civilization in the Rift's future, aside from what's been set up by people colonizing the islands in the aftermath and all that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna chop it up into little zones. I'm not gonna tackle China all as one big block, because China's a big country and has a bunch of different provinces that have now been turned into little separate micro hells under the rules of different Yama Kings. We're gonna chop it up. Probably do like China's coastlands, China's interior mountains, the Gobi Desert, Mongolia, the Japans, as I said. Some overview of what's been going on in Myanmar, or Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and the India subcontinent, which, as I said, I'll mostly just only have information out of Pantheons in the Megaverse and maybe a few tidbits out of the Underseas book that kind of hints on what's going on that zone of Asia. But just to be clear, though, when it comes down to what Asia actually is, Asia doesn't call itself Asia. We're all Asians, sort of. Either we're Africans or Asians. That's really just the two branches of humanity as far as I can tell historically. Just for some reason, because of just some old Roman and Greek maps, we're just kind of stuck on trying to split that continent into two subcontinents. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see what we'll end up exposing by the time we're done with this series of tour guides. But be sure to hit subscribe and stay tuned. Getting back on that Rifts bandwagon. Unfortunately, it's been like 2 weeks since anyone's accused Dungeons and Dragons of being bigoted or racist. And so without any controversy to fuel video content, I guess I just have to resort to talking about the other games I like to talk about. So here we go. More Rifts content for you Rifts fans. Get on it. Stay waspinated.